Hello and welcome, Mech Warriors and Mech fans from around the world in the Inner Sphere. This is Darren, also known as Bombadil, and I am joined, as usual, by Phil, aka Sean Lang. Phil, how are you
I'm
doing
doing
tonight?
great, man. Thanks for asking. I'm glad to be back home, not gonna lie. But yeah, got to see your beard recently. It was good to see you again.
I hope that wasn't the highlight of the trip. Yeah, we just returned from a few days up in Vancouver, visiting the guys in the office, and had an awesome time. But yeah, it is always good to
It's a
be.
little weird being there during a
Yeah,
normal work day, just because like we're always there during like holidays and MechCon and
big
right big
events.
events and right. It was pretty cool. It was a good insight.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Anyway, this is, of course, another production update with Russ Bullock, president of Piranha Games, developers of MechWarrior Online and the upcoming MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries title. Russ, I know that this is the once a month Beer Friday in the office today. How are you doing? I'm assuming pretty good at this point.
Oh, I'm fine. Thank you very much.
Doing well?
Yep, great.
Awesome. Well, thank
I'm
you
just
for...
wondering why Phil was so
Mhm.
glad to be home after like 2 days in Canada. Come on.
You want to know
It was
why?
a great time. We had some good beer. We had some chicken wings.
Yes.
I'm not even sure what else you have, but I'm sure it was great.
You know, the one thing that we didn't have up in the Northwest is 70-degree weather, which is what Phil is enjoying at this
No, not
moment. So
anymore.
maybe that
Which
has
is what
something.
you're now a part of in being Northern Washington.
Yes,
You're one of us now.
yes, and I love the cold weather, so I'm totally down with it. But anyway,
This is
thank you.
warm weather for Canada. I mean, this is like we're like the warmest part of Canada. You know, most of our listener base here, at least half of our listener base here is probably Fahrenheit people, so we can
Yeah.
talk. I don't know. We're like the warmest part of Canada. So what does that mean? Let me educate you, so you don't think we all live in igloos, which I know is what you
Only
think.
about half of you.
Oh, I don't know. Let's say 45 or so degrees Fahrenheit throughout the year mostly, which is like, what?
Yeah.
You're in Canada and it's not like blues? Yeah, that's true. It's not. It's still cold though. I'm freezing my ass off. It's like it's 5 or so degrees above freezing the last little while, and it's freaking cold. So I feel you. And I grew up in southern Alberta, which can be like Fahrenheit speak minus 20 plus, in stretches. So when it gets close to zero now, I feel it.
All it means is you just got to walk faster from the office building to the pub.
Yeah,
And
you're
and
speed walking now.
yes,
Yeah.
you're speed walking. Anyway, lots of great beer up there to keep you warm, and those wings were insane. I love those wings. Anyway, recently in MechWarrior Online, we've had a few announcements. We had, of course, the Solaris 7 pack, which features 7 new hero mechs, as well as the, for many, long-awaited release, finally, of the Flea. I'm assuming the technology on this thing must be insane for it to take, like, I think it was announced 6 years ago, at least the original artwork for it. So now we are releasing it to the masses. The Flea is coming. So for all of you annoying little light pilots, I'm joking. I respect light pilots, but they
I don't.
annoy me.
They're little shits.
So
It's
that's
coming.
the key. Whenever you say something offensive, just say, just
Right.
kidding, within half a second of
See how
saying
fast
it.
I did that?
Yeah, I learned that.
Yeah, exactly. Also recently posted was the roadmap for March, April, and May. This includes things like the second PGI original mech, of course, the first being the
Roughneck.
Roughneck. Thank you. So the Sun Spider's coming out this month, which is a 70-ton clan heavy Omni mech, along with the holiday bonus hero variants of both the Sun Spider and the Roughneck. That's coming this month. And the removal of the respec cost for the skill tree, which I'm very happy for that. That's going to be a nice little change. So that is this month. That's March. Soon after in April, we have the, to me, super exciting release of the Solaris feature, which includes 4 new Solaris maps on top of the Steiner Coliseum map, which we already have in game. This means we will have all 5 Solaris maps at launch, including, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's the first time that in a video game that the Curita arena, Ishiyama, has been in a game. I know it wasn't in Mech 4, so I'm super excited about that. We have like an underground map.
You're not relying on me to say one way
No,
or the
no,
other,
no,
right?
no.
I mean, geez, what do I know? I'm just making MechWar Online. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I've been told, which is pretty cool. I mean, it was really important for us to try to get all 5 of the canon mechs into the initial release of Solaris. And, just let me wax poetic here for a moment, if you will.
Go for it.
So that I can become a hero of the people.
Of course.
The powers that be internally, game development. If you haven't been in game development before, it's always a challenge. And there's always someone saying, "Oh my God, we can't get this done by this time. Oh my God." And my job as director of the project is to say, I will not accept that. I must have at least this, and I know it might mean this or that, and there's some trade-offs, and certain things there's a give and take in the process. But I said we gotta have all 5 of these maps. So you guys have seen 3 of them.
Yes.
If you were at MechCon, right? And is all 3 of the MechCon ones in the live build? Excuse me if I forget, but no?
Steiner Coliseum's the only one that we've had access to.
Okay.
And
and then there was 2 more in the
teaser.
Those that came to MechCon.
Yes.
Okay. So that's 3. So, and then there's 2 more. There's the Mech Factory and there's the caves. And you guys, so, most people out there have only seen 1 apparently. So now there's all 5. So I think, and there's some firsts here too. The caves is something that was a bit of a risk. I mean, there was a cave way back when in the original Forest Colony, and I just triggered all those nostalgic feelings for all you long time, like friends and family gamers. And it had some issues with it. It had some bugs. There was some problems in the rendering, and some of you are saying, yeah, I remember those. Some are saying, I didn't see it. Why didn't you keep doing caves? But bottom line is, this is a full cave-based map, and it's going to be really unique. So you have all 5 of the factions, and I'm just really excited about that. So yes, Darren.
Yes.
This is the first time ever.
Yep.
According to you, that all 5 have been around.
I didn't see chat argue with me, so I do believe it was the first time. And
you were correct.
We did see John working on Factory. He also gave us a sneak peek of Ishiyama.
Yes, he did.
Very much looking forward to all of these maps. I'm super excited. So that's basically 4 new maps are coming with not basically, it is 4 new maps coming with the Solaris feature. Very much looking forward to that. And guys, even though I'm briefly going through the roadmap, we will come back and we'll discuss stuff. So don't worry, I'm not passing things over or whatever. So I talked about March, then we're moving on with April. No, I talked about that too, the Solaris feature. The Hero Pack also in April, and then the redesign of the supply cache system, which we'll come back to as well. And then finally in May, we'll have the release of Paul's favorite hero, or favorite mech, the one that basically made him go clan, which, I hang my head in shame. But the Blood Asp, very scary mech, which will be coming out in May, as well as the new quick play map of Solaris. It's a little confusing because there's a lot of Solaris content coming out, but basically there's the Solaris feature, and then which includes all 5 Solaris arena maps, but then there's also the Solaris City map coming out for quick play, which is also amazing. We saw a teaser of that at MechCon. Very cool looking map, huge. It's literally a city. So that's exciting. That's coming out in May. And the launch of MechWarrior Online World Championships 2018 will be happening in May. Plus basically a lot of other cool stuff that you can check it out on the roadmap at mwomerks.com, and I will post the link in chat. So
wow. I don't know what you just said, but that all sounds great. that sounds amazing.
That's what my wife says to me.
All of that stuff is happening?
All of that stuff. Yeah.
Wow.
So where do we want to dive in? Do we want to dive in with May? Do you have a topic you want to breach first?
Well, let's talk about Solaris. I mean,
let's do it. And by the way,
yeah.
Speaking of Solaris, Duncan Fisher is in chat. Thank you, George, for being here. I know a lot of people are anxious for his part in it as well. But yeah, let's talk Solaris. It is Solaris time, mech fans.
Hi, Duncan. How are you? Yep, really enjoyed having George at the last couple of MechCons. Everyone getting a chance to know him. He's a really great guy. Hope he enjoyed his time there. I think we've really enjoyed our time at, Piranha. Kind of, I mean, I guess in a way we take a lot of pride at sort of fulfilling what people have always wanted. And I guess I'm getting sidetracked a little bit with MechCon here, so I'll
That
try
is
not
okay.
to. Yeah, let's save that. We're going to talk about MechCon, I'm sure, in a bit. So let me leave that behind. I almost got captured by the nostalgia
It's easy to
of
do.
life.
Yeah.
It happens all the time in this brand. But Solaris. So the patch date of was it April 17th, I believe. As usual, if any of you've worked in game development, everything comes in hot. Doesn't matter how much time you give development teams, shit is gonna come in hot. So it's the same thing with Solaris, but I will tell you that I've been previewing beer. You guys saw it as well, Darren, Phil. There's a build. You can fire it up. You can go into the new Mech Lab. So those of you that are new to the product, and here it is. You ready for it? Shout out to my boy, Shreddy Krueger, 87, I
Yes.
think. Yeah, so he's a friend from games. He's a streamer. You guys should follow him. Shreddy, you owe me more than a beer if I ever come out to Boston or whatever you are. So, little shout out to him. So, I just point was that you can play the game, you can play the build, and there's a brand new Mech Lab. And I guess the reason it triggered me at that moment was that we've had basically the same Mech Lab since like forever. I mean, even UI 2.0, quote unquote 2.0, which is kind of a conversation in and of itself, was that that was, even though the UI changed a lot since that time, it's really the same Mech Lab, and that is kind of a kind of the mech spins on the spot type of Mech Lab, and it works well in many ways, but it kind of leaves a lot to be desired when it comes to walking around the Mech Lab. So you can play the current Solaris build, and one of the first things you might notice is you can click the first person view button, drop down to the ground, walk around your mech, and when you're not in that view, you can rotate the camera around the mech. So it's not just like spinning the mech on the spot as though it's sort of a like a little toy figure. It's more of you're a camera and you can spin around the mech, and that's the way that you look at your mech, apply your decals. See what I did there? Decals.
You did it, yeah.
And all your patterns and colors, and of course now your bolt-ons and all that was functional. We got the guys to test it when they were there, and we found a few modifications and improvements, and things are looking good. And all the other screens, I guess, Darren, maybe you could jump in here and the user interface and like the whole front end experience of Solaris, did it feel a little bit different than the normal MechWar Online?
Well, yeah, I mean, it looks completely different. Obviously looks upgraded and updated. I like the UI. We saw a brief example of, because even with the build that we saw, there was another build the following day being worked on. So obviously, like you said, crunch time and everything's coming in hot. But what I loved, what you're describing, the Mech Lab, the walking around the Mech Lab, and even the being able to look at your mech, it is a whole new experience. Whether you're doing the first person walking around, which gives you a great feeling of perspective and how big these mechs are, but also just rotating the mech. It's not just horizontal rotation is which we were getting at. It's also vertical. So it's almost like a entire 360-degree rotation. Obviously you can't go under your mech and see the bottom of its feet, but totally allows for better viewing of your mechs and admiring your handiwork, whether you're somebody who does amazing things with the decals as we've seen out there, or paint jobs or whatever. Just a much better, much needed improvement, in my opinion, to to be able to check out your cool mechs. Yeah, I like
and then on top of that, in this Solaris feature itself, you pretty much have a whole new UI interface as well, right? With your patrons and sponsors, and then being able to select mechs. And also too, what was really cool, not to spoil it and tell me to shut up, Russ, is like you can see leaders, their mech info, what they're leading with and stuff. It's pretty in depth. So I was quite taken aback of how much details go in that. So you know, you can check out Proton, what his favorite build is in whatever tier and he's playing in. So that's pretty cool details. I also like the UI updates for the end of round screen and the matchup and stuff for the 1v1, 2v2s, very sharp looking. So yeah, it was very nice.
Well, I think one thing that even kind of caught me off guard from one of the you know, I think it was the test department, and you know, God bless the QA department, you know, unsung heroes of game development, who you know, find all the problems and bugs and all the things that sometimes they say, you know, I call bullshit, you know, on what you're doing.
Sure.
And I really appreciate that. And you know, one thing they said to me recently was like, this is a huge feature. In fact, it was in a production meeting on Wednesday. I think Chris was there when you guys were visiting. It was like, it was very candid. He was like, this feature has a lot of work left to do, and this feature is huge. Like, this is way bigger than anything ever. Like, this is bigger than faction play. And I was kind of taken back by that and say, oh my God, like, he's right. This shit is big. You know, like, this is a lot of changes. This is bigger than anything we've done before. This is bigger than faction play. So on and so forth. So, you know, I think, yes, I think you should expect that our development resources on MWO will be focused on Solaris post launch. There's definitely a possibility of a hot fix or a patch post, no doubt about it. And I would expect that, and this is, I'm just going to kind of set up a future conversation point here for us, but I think, you know, Solaris patching in April, and I think definitely the, you know, like you should kind of consider the May and June patches to be reactionary. I think that's fair to say, like reactionary to, you know, Solaris, and make sure that we're supporting Solaris in the greatest possible way. And I think people would expect that and would be happy to hear that. But it's a really big feature, and you could definitely come to MechWarrior Online and you know, download the game and exist within Solaris completely, and never play, you know, quick play, group queue, and all the other bits and pieces of MechWarrior Online, and that's totally acceptable. So let's talk a bit about this. I think you guys have heard most of this before, but you know, this is a game mode where, you know, you're gonna see almost a complete, not a complete, but a fairly, well, a more significant effort towards rebranding than you've seen to date. MechWarrior Online is the name of the game, but you're going to see the main logo of the game change to MechWarrior Online Solaris 7. And that's going to be kind of global throughout the Steam page, throughout the main title page, pretty much throughout the product. And we want this to be an opportunity to kind of, you know, for a game that's been out now for, well, I mean, 6 years this fall when it comes to an open beta plus state. It's been out for a while, and there's been a lot of people, and maybe there's a significant number of people out there that, you know, were more of a single player type person, or for whatever reason decided that it wasn't for them anymore. This is an opportunity, I think, for us to say, this is a brand new experience. You can come in. You don't have to play the normal quick play, group queue, faction play, or anything. Come in and join Solaris and build that up. Play 1v1 matches. Very quick matches. We'll get to that in a second. I think that's something worth talking about. But 2v2, 1v1, 2v2, and just experience the game in I think anyhow, a very completely different manner. Um, yeah. Anyhow, sorry, Darren. I think I
Mm.
could probably go on for like an hour, sort of like rambling on about various bits of Solaris. But like, any follow-up questions kind of come to your mind naturally based on what I'm saying? Because I kind of want to go off in like 100 different directions.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think I want to reiterate that it's a much bigger feature than maybe some people realize, and more than I realized from when we first started talking about it, many months ago. I totally agree, and I know a few people that probably will exist only in Solaris. Specifically a couple of VIPs that we brought to the last MechCon love the Solaris, the 1v1s, the 2v2s. And so I expect that to totally be the case. I expect it to bring people back. I expect a lot of people to just stick with it. And it's just going to be an incredible feature. And it is a huge release that's coming. So I'm very much looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to see how the community receives it and takes it and runs. Phil, are you going to be doing 1v1s? Are you going to try and make a name for yourself? Are you going to be doing 2v2s? I was hoping because people have been challenging us, Phil. And so I'm hoping you'll carry our 2v2
Is that right?
team.
Actually, I'm looking
Yes.
forward to 2v2s. I do enjoy watching the Master Challenge, and last week we were watching the 1v1 tournament as well going on. I think it's a different beast entirely. There are certain mechs and strategies that work really well on that, whereas in a team environment, you may not see those particular loadouts being used. So 2v2's going to be quite interesting. I think just sort of the teamwork itself, I've always been a fan of. And then as far as Solaris, what I think is going to be interesting as well is, as you mentioned, there are people that are going to basically just play it, and you're able to earn those C bills. You're able to earn the XP, right? And so how many people are going to leave a solo or group queue or even faction play to go play those? Sorry, my wife
Right
just
there.
has to open the door. And then on top of that, I think another key thing is ease of access. 2v2, just to be able to grab a buddy and go. I think that is so convenient to do. And I feel like that's a pretty big success story right there. That, it's always tough getting 8 people together constantly over and over and over again. So like something like a 2v2 is quick and easy. So yeah, I think it's going to be quite popular. And it's also going to be interesting to see the different mechs being used in all the different categories and which ones come out on top.
I gotta say, I mean, the MechWare community is they're incredible. I mean, they really are. They're one of a kind. I think over the years I've really grown to appreciate them. We have a lot of people that are very, they're very sophisticated when it comes to the brand and when it comes to the whole thing, and they're very humorous. I mean, we're looking at the chat when I was talking about Solaris, and I saw the hashtag not my mech warrior. I mean, that stuff is really funny to me. I mean, I understand where you're going. I think there's some angst that like, oh no, Solaris is maybe a little far from the original notion of MechWarrior Online. I really don't think they're going to find that to be the case. I mean, it's really just a smaller subset of players, and I think it's going to fit in very nicely. It's gonna fit a niche that we haven't really filled yet with MechWarrior Online, and I think it's going to be really fun. We're going to have a lot of people that are coming back to the game. At least I anticipate that. You guys that have played it, significantly over the years, and this is a very, very unique experience. The size of the maps. Those of you that have been at MechCon, I think, will agree with me. I mean, what was the biggest lineup? I think for MechCon, the most recent MechCon, was the Solaris. I mean, it was incredible. It was like there was a lineup, 50 feet long for the entire evening,
All day.
from noon till midnight. It was,
Yeah.
and this is just kind of a scratching the surface of MechWarrior, you know, like, as far as MechCon, because sure it was the maps, but it was lacking the entire aspect of the reward structure, the sponsors and patrons, and you know all the 7 divisions and the competition level that's coming into Solaris. So I think you guys will love it. And ultimately, I guess the message should be it's really not going to impact the regular queues of solo queue and group queue and even faction play. Although I think we'll talk about faction play here a little bit later today, um, in how maybe some of our plans for it in the future and how it might be impacted in the very short term of the Solaris release. So we'll just add that to our list to talk about tonight.
I think
Yeah.
another thing too, Darren, is viewability. The ability for people to watch matches as well as broadcast them. I know we talked to Paul about that. I know there will probably be efforts to make a almost 24/7 broadcast sort of system or something like that to be able to do that. And I think that's another cool thing is, again, you got 1v1, 2v2s that'll be kicking off 24/7. And yeah, that'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, and you know I agree as far as the MechWarrior and BattleTech community. They are awesome and they are unique. They are very passionate, and you know my MechWarrior is different from another person's MechWarrior, and there's you know it's different for every person. But I do believe that the Solaris feature is going to be very well received and a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. Solaris was one of my favorite parts of Mech 4, and you know, of course, got again. Duncan Fisher. But anyway, it's going to be exciting. Do you want to move on, Russ, to maps, which obviously we can hit the just really briefly. Again, I want to point out we're going to have all 5 Solaris maps, you know, which includes Boreal, Steiner Coliseum, which we already have, the factory, Ishiyama, the jungle. I'm super excited about that. Number one, new maps. Who doesn't like new maps? But specifically, after seeing them, I'm excited about all of them, but man, the factory in Ishiyama, just going to be amazing. So I'm very happy about that. And then, of course, the newest quick play map that's coming out, Russ. I know it's deep in development right now, and it's an insane map as far as the technical side of it. We don't have anything like it in the game yet. Solaris City, and that will be coming out as well. Do you want to talk about Solaris City at all, Russ?
Well, I mean, you guys saw on the roadmap that Solaris City is in May. That was, I guess, really a necessity. We thought it would have come out prior to Solaris, but we had to, we're not a huge company. We're a smaller company. We have, I guess, I know a lot of guys are interested in this, so I'll tell you. I mean, we have a bunch of hires that now we're hiring a lot for the growth of our company when it comes to MechWarrior Online and MechWarrior 5 combined. And, with the hire and the applications we have processed, we'll be approaching 70 people, which is a very small company when it comes to game developers, 70, but all at the same time, up to, 20 bigger than we've been historically. It's a nice size for a company. If any of you guys have been in development, you might agree with me. It seems like that 50, 60, 70 mark, that's a nice size. It seems like for a private company that works really well. As soon as you get over that 70 mark, it starts to get a little more challenging as you approach 100. I've been there before, roughly, with past iterations of Piranha, but so we're growing, we're hiring. In fact, I guess I might as well take this moment to kind of throw this out there. We've got 6 or 7 applications now, from engineering to quality assurance to art. We're doing a lot of hiring, so go ahead and apply if you have the experience. But yeah, when it comes to maps, we had to kind of put the priority of resources to the Solaris release, and making sure that we get all 5 of the canon maps upon release. I mean, it was floated out there by an unnamed source within Piranha that, like, hey, we'll just patch the other couple in the following month. Ixnay on that. To me, it was like, no. Solaris release has to be legit, has to be full, has to be complete, needs all 5 maps. And unfortunately, based on the size of our company and the resources we had, that meant the Solaris City map had to be in May. So that being as it may, it looks great. I mean, Dennis, my art director for, oh my goodness, how many years has it been, Dennis? He's gonna get mad at me if I get this wrong. It must be close to a decade by now, if not more. Great guy. I've mentioned him before, and he helped him and John, who made the Riverlight Oasis, who's he's he's a fast rising star within the company, and he's a great guy. I had a conversation with him earlier today, so he's enjoying his time here, I hope, and he's finishing out those Solaris maps. And Dennis is working closely with him, and he's working the Solaris City map. So Solaris City will come in May. You guys know that via the roadmap, and
Yep.
it's looking great. I don't know if you guys thought when you were here, Phil and Darren, but it's getting close to sort of like completion, final testing stage. I don't know for sure if it's going to test as well as Riverlight Oasis. It's been, map development is a challenge. I think it will. I mean, we certainly looked upon the latest successes within MWO and said, what made Riverlight Oasis and these maps, successful? Let's try to build upon that. Let's make sure that Solaris City, not not to be confused with Solaris, and I think that the naming of that map has created significant amounts of confusion, both internally and externally. Has nothing to do with the Solaris feature per se, but yeah, it was a challenging map, and I think at least I hope I really think that it'll be very successful. It'll be right there with in the top half dozen of mechs.
Well,
Mechs. Did I say mechs?
Yeah, you said but maps. Riverlight Oasis was a great map. Is a great map, and John did wonderful work on it. I know that Solaris City is a much more challenging map, just in its scale. Chris, you're keying out, and also just the layout of it and so forth. But I think it's going to play well. Dennis does do a wonderful job, and I did check out some of the. He gave me some sneak peeks, and they're still working really hard on it. But again, I think playability, it'll be fun, and I also appreciate the lore aspect of it. Not only are we releasing the Solaris feature, but I think the novel was Illusions of Victory, took place where basically on Solaris, because of political things going on, the fighting spilled out of the arenas into Solaris City, and this happened during the Civil War era. So it fits perfectly in the timeline that we exist in, and so hopefully the lore buffs out there will appreciate that a little bit as the fight spills out into Solaris City. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think been for 6 years now, people have been asking for a full-on metropolis type city, and so we're gonna have it. I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, I think there'll be some people that sort of said, "Hey, when I said that, I meant, I don't know, Solaris, not Solaris, River City on steroids, and like either burnt out, destroyed city." I appreciate that. I think at some point in the development of Solaris City, we came to the conclusion that in order to release it in the time schedule we needed, and the performance we needed, and the playability that we needed, compared to, say, Riverlight Oasis, that we had a great idea from Dennis to go the direction that we did, and so we did that, and I think it worked out well. So
yeah,
it kind of reminds me though that whatever reason, Darren, I apologize, but I think I'm going to backtrack a little bit to Solaris, and there's a notion of Solaris that I forgot to mention, and I think that it's it might be clear to some people, that I've been hearing and reading all the updates on Solaris, but I think it might be worth mentioning here so that people can kind of spread that information. But so the regular quick play and group queue of say Mech Online is based on the tier-based system of PSR. Like, are you tier 1 through 5 based on your piloting skill rating? And Solaris and the other features are not. They're based on ELO, as we once were in the public queue. And the immediate question that might, appear to certain people is like, well, will we go back to ELO or the tier-based system Solaris in public queue? I don't have those answers yet, but let me tell you that, just so you know, I think people might understand, is that Solaris is split into, and this will give you an idea as to why Solaris is such a big feature. Solaris is split into 7 divisions. You have division 1 through 7, and you have a separate ELO score for each of those 7 divisions. And that is for solo 1v1, 1v1 queue. But you can also play 2v2 queue. And in 2v2, you also have a separate ELO score from 1v1. So yes, ultimately you have 14 different ELO scores in Solaris. All 7 divisions in 1v1, all 7 divisions in 2v2. And this is something that I think will resonate with players, because those players that have been around all the way since the early days of ELO and solo queue remember that we had only 4 different ELO scores: light, medium, heavy, and assault. And this is going to a greater degree of granularity that I think a lot of players will really appreciate. So if you're a big time star in 1v1, you really won't hesitate in taking your buddy out in a 2v2 match, because it won't impact, a particular tier of the 1v1 queue that you're trying to be the number 1 leaderboard in, and so on and so forth. So I'm sorry if that sounded kind of out of subject, but I just remembered that is one of the things I wanted to bring up, and I think that people will be really interested in hearing that information.
Yeah, no problem. This is your show. Take it where you want. Well, yeah. So that covers the maps. By the way, if you are looking for the next big thing as far as maps go, it seems like there is a movement for a farm map. We go from Metropolis to, I guess, the opposite. So I don't know, rolling green hills or whatever, hay bales to blow up. That's it. # farm map. All right. So do you
burn the farms?
Burn the farms. I think that's really what they just want to be.
Hashtag. I want to see hashtag on Twitter. Burn the farms straight away.
There
Let's
you go.
Get that shit trending.
Yep. And you might have an influence. Paul brought up, he recently did a podcast with me. He brought up the possibility or the fact that we are going to look into an Australian server. Do you want to touch on that at all?
Yeah, let's talk about that. So, Australia. Hey, everybody in Australia. Love you guys. Mech Warrior traditionally has been, for whatever reason, marketplace-wise, it's been popular in North America. It's been a popular game in parts of Western Europe, England, Germany, France, and so on and so forth. And it's been popular in places like Australia. So, as you know, we have an Oceanic server, which is in Singapore. We located that database there in Singapore primarily because at the time our main partner for data centers was not in Australia, but also kind of in equal parts thinking, well, if we're going to grow the Oceanic region, we should possibly be in a more central location like Singapore that has, quality infrastructure and can possibly service a larger portion of that area of the world. And it's worked out reasonably well, but what we think we understand now is that although, unfortunately for Australia and those regions of the world, the infrastructure there is kind of, well, it's illogical to a degree. You have people in Eastern Australia and the major cities that have much slower ping rates to, say, Singapore than you'd expect. In fact, a lot of those regions have found that their ping rate to the North American server is not much worse or similar to the Singapore, which makes no sense whatever. So based on the history of where the players are, we decided to make a test. Say, well, let's test actually putting a server, the Oceanic server, I should say, specifically right there in Sydney, and on that portion of Australia, and see if our overall MechWarrior Online population is greater than it was when it was in Singapore. And so we have that, fortunately, since we first started Singapore, our main partner on database and not database, excuse me, but like the dedicated servers have actually expanded and put a location in Sydney. And so we have decided to say, let's do a test. Instead of Singapore, let's spin up a server in Sydney. And let's see if that has greater returns for the overall population of MechWarrior. So that's in testing now, and it's getting close. In fact, I talked to the guys just before the podcast. They expect that within about 1 week, we'll actually be able to turn on that Sydney server. And that would mean that instead of Singapore, it'll be right there in Sydney. And so for all those players that are listening, as many as there are, that say, oh my God, I used to, I live in Singapore, or this is going to be worse than what I used to have. I feel for you. I really do. All we're doing now is we're exploring the possibility that there might be a better way to serve the greater community. So once that goes active in about a week, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. My expectation is that it will show positive results, that we'll see an overall growth in the community because of the popularity in Australia. And I feel a special connection to our Australian brothers because I don't know why. It's like another Canada-sized sort of country, way the hell over there, wherever they are. But,
down there.
Kind of similar, kind of a, once upon a time, I don't know, like offshoot of the British Empire, or
That's
whatever
why.
it may be. So let's see how it goes.
Yep.
Hopefully it goes well. And so they'll have a great connection. So let's see how that goes, guys. But it's going to go live straight away. So let's. So I guess my one message would be to the, Australian players and our, the 228 wild ones. Dust off those friends lists. Contact all your boys who used to play MechWarrior Online and tell them there's an Australia server. And getting as many of them as possible to play the game again, once that server goes live, is your best chance of establishing it as the de facto Oceanic server.
Or as Paul said, use it or lose it. And so I see some of our Australian friends out there, Chrysalis. I know, we have a lot of good friends in the Australian community, Jay-Z. What is it that's going to, basically, are you just going to look at population on that server to determine whether it's effective or not? By moving it over there, are you getting more people playing in that? Do
you want me to try my Australian accent one more time?
I'm not going to
put a shrimp on the barbie. The number of shrimp that are barbecued is going to directly determine if the server stays live.
There you go. It's all about the shrimp. Always
No,
is.
I don't. Obviously, we'll directly look at population. I mean, it is what it is. In the end, MechWarrior is a wonderful game and a wonderful franchise, but it's not the world's biggest franchise, and it's niche to a degree. So we have to. In fact, it reminds me of some Twitter exchange I had this week of someone saying, if you don't leave the Singapore server and the Sydney server active at the same time, then it's a very short-sighted response. And whoever I just quoted, you're now famous within the Twitterverse. But
so are shrimp. Evidently,
it kind of explained to me the misunderstanding, and that's my fault. I don't know how I can kind of explain that better than I have, but I'll try. There's only so many people over there, and sure, I could absolutely keep the Singapore servers open and the Sydney and update the client to show 4 servers instead of 3. But all it would ultimately mean is that, I think, at least at the very moment, is that both suck. And, there's just not enough players to service that region of the world. So we've got to try to find the server that works the best. And this is a test to see, well, is Sydney better than Singapore? So here we are. So put another shrimp on the Barbie. And let's see if this is better.
We're being told very clearly it is prawns, not shrimp. They don't call them shrimp down there.
Put another prawn on the Barbie.
Yeah. So thanks. What was the name? Crocodile Dundee. Anyway, yeah, there you go. Australian server. Gonna say it again. Use it or lose it. I hope you guys use it. I hope it works out well and that you have better success and pings down there in Australia. I do feel for them. Everything in Australia is trying to kill you, including the internet. Evidently.
I think our next original mech design from Prana will be the prawn. I can see that now. The prawn.
Yeah, the prawn. Yep. Okay, that works. Do you want to talk about the next thing that's highlighted there? 8v8. Do you want to comment at all? We mentioned months ago the possibility of changing group queue from 12v12 to 8v8. Where does that stand these days?
Well, it stands absolutely dead in the water, and that's as quick as I can get to the point and say, look, we floated the idea of the main game going back to 8v8, and I guess I would say further defined the solo queue and group queue, the quick public queues of the game going to 8v8, faction play staying 12v12 with the drop decks and everything would have its place in the world. You'd have your 8v8 public queue, you'd have your 12v12 faction play with the 4v4 scouting, and you'd have your 1v1 and 2v2 in Solaris. It sounded neat, but the problem was the response from the community was very, very 50-50.
That never happens in this community.
Yeah, it's a challenge. It really is a challenge. I guess if I'm being really honest, I was expecting a much more overwhelming response, like, wow, you gotta make public queue 8v8. And we didn't get it. That's just the truth of it now. I know right now I'm speaking to a larger contingent of the, I guess, quote-unquote core audience. And so I would expect that the audience right now is greater than 50-50 on the notion of, like, 8v8's great, but it's not, we have to be careful here, right? I mean, it wasn't overwhelming, I guess, is the notion. So it certainly wasn't at a state where we could say, let's take development resources away from, I don't know, Solaris or any number of things and say, let's put it towards 8v8 because, the community just absolutely has to have it. So,
well, even looking in our chat right now, you can see.
like even the chat right now is not saying, Russ, you know, you made the mistake. I would say many of you think AV8 would be great. Many of you think it would not be an improvement. And I guess that's the kicker. Is like, I am all over, and this is going to go to a core issue. I know like a fundamental point is saying, hey, you don't listen to the community. And I would say, community, I feel like all we do is listen to the community. We really do. We just listen to the community. We just take the latest and greatest comments and we focus them down and say, this is what the community is saying. Can we do it or can we not? And if we can, great. If we can't, why not? And we challenge it and we say, well, why can't we? Well, because of this. Well, why is that? And we challenge it again and again and again. And only if it stands up to scrutiny do we not do it. And right now it feels very split on 12eval versus 12 or 8v8. And I would say we shouldn't really development or like, you know, assign the resources and do something unless it's really a surefire victory for everyone. And not just a portion of the community. It has to be a really, you know, significant change. So I know for one thing that's clear looking at the chat, I mean, it's definitely a passionate topic. And I had, you know, a million people toss out opinions. But, you know, we'll look at this. The bottom line is it's not an active development aspect. Active development aspects are Solaris City, the Solaris feature, the 5 Solaris maps, and there's a few things we might talk about here later tonight. But there's a lot of things that have taken priority only because it wasn't decisive enough. And so it's just a message. It's not something saying, hey, you community, you have to do this, that, or the other. I mean, we're just doing our best we can at reading the community. And so, I don't know, Darren, I don't know if did I miss something there, but that's
Nope.
That's the quick message, I guess, is like we're just doing the best we can at deciphering what people want.
The possibility is not off the table, but it's not in current development. And yeah, I mean, I think that's, you know, quote unquote, the community represents people from opposite sides of the spectrum and opposite opinions. And so, yeah, I mean, if the community wants it, then that will come forward and hopefully it'll be enough of a majority that we can see that. Anyway, let's move on to, you wanted to briefly touch about or touch on the comp mode changes and MWWC this year and so forth. Do you want to talk about that now?
Well, I think a lot of people that listen to this can kind of imagine that we might be looking forward to MechCon. There's a bunch of people out there that have been to MechCon. There's a bunch of people that have not. MechCon's awesome. You guys should come. I mean, that's the first message. It is so fun to be there with all you guys. And some of you guys have been fans of this brand for, what is it now, Darren? 35 years?
35 years next year.
I mean, that is amazing. I mean, we released remember the 2009 video?
Yeah, videos.
Unreal.
Videos.
Very much.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was 2009. That shit is almost 10 years old.
I know, that's crazy.
That was approaching the 25-year mark, if I remember correctly. So that is shocking. It makes me feel like an ancient wizard, like old as fuck. So,
there's nothing wrong with that.
So it is what it is. So I'm hanging in there, so don't worry about me. I think.
We'll see. We'll see after the Solaris release.
So what was your question again? Okay, never mind.
Comp mode changes.
So with comp, obviously with MechCon, so first off, I guess we're kind of blending topics here. Let me talk about MechCon a bit.
Wait. You want to go into MechCon right now?
Well, I mean, it's kind of related to the.
Are we going to drop the big news?
No, we're not going to go into MechCon right now. I'm just going to talk about
Okay.
I'm going to talk about comp. So
Comp.
you guys watched comp during the season. You watched the qualifications, and some of you watched the live stream of MechCon. And the MechCon stream was amazing. And we had how many thousands tuned in the last couple of years, Darren? Was it like over 3?
Yeah, well over 3. I think for somewhere around 5 at the peak. Yeah.
Yeah, 3, 4, 5,000.
More than we're in house.
Like a lot. Just say a lot.
A lot.
Like tons.
A lot.
Like, whoa, so many. And it was great. I mean, credit to all the comp players that are listening. Thank you so much for enjoying the game and playing it and getting so good at it. It's kind of unearthed so many like intense, deep complications about our game that we could never have understood without you. I mean, it is really kind of incredible. The only complaint really about comp the last couple of years was, well, I mean, ultimately there's a particular meta that comes to the forefront, and that means that we play on one map far too often, and we play with particular mechs far too often. So I think one really welcome change, and I think even the main comp teams would really welcome, is improvements to our competitive front end. So one thing that we're considering, and I want to really double down on that, considering, is changes to our front end dynamic within the comp mode of MechWarrior Online. And that would mean, okay, you're voting between, these particular maps. I think first off, we were looking to make a change where so generally speaking, especially at the World Championships, we have a best of 5. And whatever map you play or vote on to play on will be eliminated after it's been used from voting the next time. And so there's a little bit of clarification here still internally that we're not positive on yet. Whether that means that there always will be 5 to pick on, or 3 or 5 or some odd number, but new maps circle into that rotation or whatnot. But the bottom line is we're thinking we'd love to see that once a map's been played in a 5-match round, that's eliminated. And there's if a team was very competitive with another team, that you'd actually see, if it went the distance of 5 matches, you'd see 5 different maps. And that's the first change that we're considering very strongly. The second one would be around the mechs. We're always working extremely hard to balance the mechs and everything around the balance of the game. But, the meta can be very challenging to chase down, as well as the fact that the tournament build gets locked down months and months ahead of MechWarrior Online or MechWarrior MechCon. And so what we're considering is that there'll be, like other games have had, like a champion banning in various games, but like a chassis banning. So we're working towards looking at doing a screen that would say, first, the map is declared based on voting on a map. And that might be the only time that map is available for the 5-round matches. But also, then the 2 teams will ban up to 1 or 2 or ish mechs. So that then some of maybe the most dominant meta builds can be outlawed by the various teams, and it should create, we think, much more interesting streams. Ultimately, that's what we should all be interested in. Everyone proclaims a lot of interest in growing the game, growing the product, growing the esports aspect, making it more viewable, making it more interesting. These are features that would do that. And so that's the first point. And I guess ultimately, first we're going to ship Solaris, then we're going to turn our attention to this. It may turn out that maybe we have to launch our preliminary, MechCon comp mode aspect a month later than we'd ideally would. But I think we feel it's important to get these features live before we do so. So I guess very roughly speaking, around June, you might look towards June as being a patch that would implement these features, and therefore we'd be able to turn on our comp mode shortly thereafter using these aspects.
All right, so basically the bottom line with all that is just more variety, map variety, mech variety, making it a little bit more entertaining to watch. I am down for that. Phil, did you have comments?
I was just going to say, I mean, if you watch any type of like MOBA or any competitive game, even like the fighting games, they have something like this to a character banning. And I think from a viewability standpoint, 100% agree with everyone out there. We don't want to see Tourmaline Canyon every single time and only get to go yay once to Polar. So I think map banning is right up the alley, along with I think chassis banning is quite unique, and how it could potentially be employed as well. If you know a particular team is strong with a particular chassis and you just don't want to see it and so forth. So yeah, I think that could be quite fun, depending how many mechs get banned as well in a given round as well. So yeah, I think that from a viewability standpoint, it'll be quite popular.
All right, guys, we are going to take a quick 5-10 minute bio break. We will be right back. We've been going a little bit over an hour. We got more to talk about. There's lots more on the way. So please don't go away. Stay tuned. And I'm also going to begin a Solaris 7-pack giveaway that you can all enter while we're away from the computer for a few minutes. So stay tuned for that in about 30 seconds. And we'll see you all back here again very shortly. All right, welcome back, everybody. This is the continuation of the production update with Russ Bullock. We've been talking about a lot of things tonight, a lot of topics. So far with MWO, we've talked about Solaris, the Solaris feature coming out, new maps, servers, 8v8, comp mode changes, etc. We're just going to jump right in, keep going, because everybody, you know, it's Friday night. We want to get out and party, I guess, something like that.
This is the party.
This is the party. That's right. Well, I know some people definitely are getting their drink on. So let's move on to jump jets and consumables. And I think actually we have somebody in channel with us to help kind of go over what these changes are and what are coming to jump jets and consumables. PGI Chris. Chris, are you here?
Yep. How's it going, everyone?
Good. Welcome. How you doing, man? Happy Friday night.
Happy Friday to everyone else.
All right, so some changes coming to jump jets and some changes coming to the consumables. Why don't we tackle jump jets first? You want to let us know what's going on?
So it's just going to be a minor change to jump jets. In the past, assault jump jets have kind of been tuned for the jump sniping, and the game has kind of evolved since then. So we are looking at this point into bringing assault jump jets into line with medium and heavy jump jets. So I need to kind of preface this with, you know, we're in the middle of testing that internally right now. We need to make sure that any kind of changes to jump jets doesn't break animations, but we're in the process of investigating that at the moment.
So to sum that up, because you didn't use the word, I'm going to. We are.
Let me sum it up.
You do it, Russ.
Buff.
There we go.
Buff those large and assault class jump jets, baby. Gonna go way higher. Do a lot more damage. Oh my god. I can't wait.
More everything.
We're looking to
buff.
initially...
Keyword buff. Say it, Chris.
We're going to buff them to bring them into line with the medium and heavy.
We're going to buff the shit out of those jump jets.
Are we having a good time or what? So
yeah.
This was the meeting for this topic as well. Russ is walking by and he whispers to Chris, just buff all of it. Make it so.
I said, guys, keyword tonight, buff. No. We're going to buff those jump jets. I mean, I guess one thing I'd say, Chris, this kind of predates your involvement, was way back when the nostalgia police will remember the days of the jump sniping meta.
Pop-Tarts.
And yeah, Pop-Tart. There you go. Thank you so much. Mm-hmm. And that was a wonderful time for all of our friends out there listening, but it was kind of obscene, and the reason it was obscene was no matter how high you jumped, you never took any leg damage, and no matter how many jump jets you fired, you never took any heat. You know, it's crazy as it sounds, that's the case. So I think what happened primarily, and we're willing to admit, is in an effort to kind of stomp out the pop-tarting, you know, insanity, we introduced both falling damage, falling from great heights, to making sure that the jump jets at least increased heat somewhat beyond nothing. And we introduced a number of things all simultaneously. And did it stomp out pop-tarting? You bet it did. But we feel like it probably went too far because we didn't introduce all these things one at a time. I think we introduced most of these things almost at the same time. So I think now, and this isn't the first time, you guys have seen, we've kind of, you know, like increased jump jetting capacity a little bit here and there multiple times over the years. But now we're going to introduce a little more capacity back to the heavies and assaults in particular. And I think it's still going to be fine. I don't think some pop-tarting is fine. It's great. It's a mechanic. It should be used. But you need to learn how to manage your heat and your leg damage.
All right, there you go. So a little buff coming to you.
To assault jump jets.
I would say
so class 1 and class 2.
All right, and then consumable changes. Chris, what's going on with consumables? Are we adding more strikes?
No, we are not.
All right, take it
So
away.
there's two consumable changes that we're looking at to pretty much tone down. So the first is going to be the cool shots. So we're seeing on our end that the cool shots can have a bit too much power tied to too little skill tree, had no investment. So we're going to be bringing down the base cooling on those consumables from 18 points down to 14 points. And that's pretty much the only change that we're looking to do with this. The goal is not to necessarily eliminate, the desire to kind of tech into that tree so much as bring the cool shots into better alignment with the points that you pay to pretty much upgrade them. So the base cool shot is pretty much reduced now to a point where you'll have to tech into the skill nodes to pretty much bring it up to where it's currently sitting at its base value right now. And the second changes that we're going to do is to specifically airstrikes, not artillery strikes, but airstrikes. So the main thing we're looking at on this one is that there's a bit of a power gap between the airstrikes and the artillery strikes. They're not airstrikes right now are kind of skewing a little bit too high in the power when compared to the standard artillery strike options. So we're going to be making a series of changes to them to kind of cut down and bring the airstrikes into better alignment with the alternative artillery strikes. So, but I do need to preface this by basically saying that as the only source of area effect in our game, we really want to make sure that the air and artillery strikes still remains an effective form of area denial and anti-clustering. But when it comes to the strikes, we're going to be making some changes. Specifically, we're going to be nerfing the shell per strike by about 40%, and also the length or duration of the strike by 40%. In addition to that, we're going to be adding a bit more scatter to the strikes by about 33% as on the lateral plane. So what this is going to do is it's really going to target those situations where an airstrike will be kind of buried in terrain. The strike will curve over the terrain, hit people immediately behind the terrain, but then it'll also continue on and hit people who are well outside that initial bombardment zone. We're going to be basically toning down strikes to focus on very targeted centralized damage for just getting to those people that are directly outside of terrain, if you're basically trying to bury the strike within terrain. So
basically, this is an epic, amazing thing that everyone should be super stoked about.
Well,
Yep.
it's
We
not.
know-
Go ahead, Chris.
we know it's been heavily requested to look into the power of consumables, especially post skill tree release. So we're going to be kind of targeting these ones initially, and both of these changes are going to be targeted for the March patch.
All right, so we obviously can't call these changes directly a buff.
Yes, you can.
Because
You
they're
know
kind
how?
of wait, hold on, because they're kind of the opposite. The other word, I'm not going to use it, but what I'm hoping, and I think what the hope is in general, is that this is going to buff. Going to use that word here, the playing experience of all of us out in the matches, right?
Yeah,
That's the
I
hope?
think the reality of it is strikes have been very, very strong OP. Obviously, since the implementation of a skill tree and everyone being able to take two. Remember, back in the day, that wasn't always the case. Not every mech had 2 slots for consumables. So I feel like this will bring them in line. Also, if you still want that damage, and even more so, you have to invest in the nodes. And really, Chris, that's what you were basically saying, is if you want that baseline, you have to invest in. Right now, you get too much for too little investment. I know watching the World Tourney, they were super strong. Many people I've seen in chat that play competitively have been asking for nerfs as well. And cool shots are one of those things where you get so much for pretty much free. And we've seen Laser Vomit pretty much dominating as well. And that just helps them even much more than other builds. So I feel like that's another positive change. And it'll be interesting to see how my playstyle changes. I remember for the longest time I actually didn't use cool shots, because I felt like don't rely on them as a crutch. And I honestly think I was a better player for that. But then, of course, you have to, live in the times and start using them to fight it as well. So, but yeah, I think those are solid changes.
Indeed. Now let's move on real quick here. Russ, there's a little tiny buff coming to decals or decals, depending on where you live. You want to tell us what that is?
Well, Darren, I've since become a decal person.
I know.
If you want to become a decal person, that's fine.
We've switched.
I know you moved up to Northern Washington and all, but I'm a decal guy now.
Okay.
And for us decal people, whatever you prefer, we are going to get 9 decals on our mechs. All the decal people will only get 6. But we are increasing the number of decals from 6 to 9.
Nice.
So that's neat, right? I mean, April patch, as I understand, is going to increase the number from 6 to 9. So all you decal people, unite under the ancient archaic system of decal, and we will be victorious. So it's going to be great. You guys are so creative with your mechs. I love it. The skins, the colors, the decals, and then soon to be had the bolt-on systems. Dare I mention how epic that shit is going to be?
Yeah.
And now you're going to have 9 decals.
Customization through the
One
roof.
thing, if I may,
this is legit.
To go along with this is with that new Mech Lab experience as well, you can see every angle of your mech, obviously, except from like underground upwards. And what's really cool about this is for those hard to reach spots, or you just can't, on top of your mech, if you want a decal, you're able to see exactly where it is now. I experimented with that this past week. So it's pretty awesome as well. So, and then of course with the bolt-ons.
Yes, indeed. So it's Team Decal versus Team Decal. And Brian says, why not make it 12? Maybe next.
Well, I'll tell them why.
Yeah.
It's a very simple reason that will be lost upon your epic mind. But bottom line is, it was easy. We thought, you know what? What the fuck? Let's increase it. But based on the UI and the resolutions and the screens and so on and so forth, and based on supporting minimum spec, blah, 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 we can go to 9 without very much effort. And that's it. I mean, there's always a concern around memory and so on and so forth, but we can go from 6 to 9 and make it fit within the UI screens without any significant effort. And so we went to 9. And that's the truth of it right now. So yeah, we could go higher in the future, but right now we could give you 9, from 6 to 9 in very short order, and we chose to do that.
All right, there you go. A buff to decals. Faction play. People have been clamoring for some news on faction play. So obviously with the roadmap you mentioned, upcoming potential changes to faction play, or that it was going to be re-examined. What do you want to say about faction play, Russ?
Well, I mean, I know there's a bunch of you out there that play faction play almost exclusively. And I hope you'll believe me when I say it's a feature set that's very important and significant to us. But it's in need of a number of improvements, in particular, especially when you consider meeting the players' expectations. I don't know if we can ever meet your expectations when you're looking at an evolving feature set from MechWarrior Online to today, but we certainly haven't given up. And the only thing that's stalling us at the moment is we have a very important feature called Solaris that's coming out. That comes out in April. And it's almost certain that we're going to be supporting that feature for a couple months post-release, May and June, let's call it. It's important to determine specifically, but we have not given up on giving significant time to faction play moving forward. I guess beyond that, Darren, I guess all I'd really say is we want this game to succeed as much as you guys do. I mean, we know how much you guys love MechWarrior and Battletech. I mean, we're all fully invested. Certainly we are completely when it comes to developing MechWarrior Online, MechWarrior 5. Well, I mean, it's the livelihood of almost 70 staff here and a company that's been around for approaching 20 years. So believe me when we say we do our best to match the needs and desires of our entire community. So we're going to release Solaris. We'll be supporting it completely. We're going to be reassessing faction play. So in the short term, we found ourselves in a position saying, well, we can't do significant development to faction play while we're working on Solaris. So what can we do in the short term? Well, in the short term, we can modify the barriers. And so the barriers of faction play, from the faction restrictions to changing faction and breaking contracts. And we thought, okay, in the immediate future, let's lessen those things. Let's make them very, very easy. Let's let people change factions on a very quick notion and all those kind of basic aspects of faction play. So that becomes live as soon as the March patch. And then we're kind of committed to making sure that the March patch has those changes as well as a number of faction play events. You should see a number of faction play events in the month of mid-March to mid-April to finish off what we would say is that season of faction play. And then Solaris is going to release. I think, just to be really upfront, we should all expect that faction play should at least anticipate a small couple weeks, 2 to 4 weeks of a period where there's no conflict. This would allow Solaris to launch with the most probability of success. That there isn't a faction play conflict going on, which may be understaffed and would create any kind of negative aspect of not being fulfilled. And I think we're going to make sure that March is a very strong faction play event with these new reduced barriers around contracts and so on and so forth. And then once Solaris launches, we're going to actually do a full map reset, a full contract reset, which is something we haven't done in a very long time. We're going to let Solaris run out for at least 2 to 4 weeks. And then we will reintroduce a faction play conflict. And we will consider, at that point, being able to, freed up from Solaris, being able to consider a development timeline for what faction play is and where we should go and what we should do. It still remains a priority. It's just that Solaris will be the priority in the short term.
Well, and obviously, like you just said, any major changes to faction play, it's going to take development time. And not the next subject, but the subject after that, we're going to talk a little bit about what the second half of this year potentially could entail as far as development, which faction play is certainly one of those options, and there's other things. And like you mentioned, although we're up to 70 employees, it's still a small company, so we can't do everything, and there needs to be some prioritization, which will come internally as well as externally from the community. So we'll get into that shortly about, what the second half of the year could hold. Let's talk about loot crates, if you don't mind, Russ. In the roadmap, you talked about loot crates and the changes that are coming, or that changes are coming. Do we want to go into this at all? Obviously, like we mentioned before, and you're, I'm sure, fully aware the controversy out there about loot crates and certain titles, other games out there who especially have been maybe pushing things too far, where it's, the loot crates are kind of integrated into progression and so forth. Obviously, we don't have progression, so that's not an issue here. And our loot crates are cosmetic items. Do you want to touch on that?
No.
Okay, and moving
Just
on.
kidding. I do. I totally do.
Yep.
No, I'm definitely not scared. I think, yeah, like when we were really in the thick of Solaris development, I think there was a lot of news articles out there around other products in the marketplace, and see how like unproduct specific I'm being. You should be proud of me. I'm being very unpartisan in my criticism. But there were some games out there that received a lot of criticism, and I didn't play all of them. I don't pretend to understand the depth of all of their issues or what people disagreed with and so forth. But I could say we were very aware of that, and we were completely redesigning the loot crate system. And I think everyone would agree that our original loot crate system was very benign. It was, you were granted a loot crate. You could choose to buy an MC key if you wanted and unlock that loot crate, and it was kind of very, random as to what you received. Certainly well outside of the notion of a match, and nothing that impacted the match you were in. No pay to win aspect. I guess the new system is the same. There's nothing that will impact your ability to win or lose the particular match you're in. Look, we're a small company. I think we do some things very well, and I think in some ways we, maybe even forge new ground. But there's aspects that, we're certainly willing to say, well, look at the way Overwatch is doing their loot crate systems. Let's do that.
Which is basically...
Yeah, go ahead, Darren.
Well, that's the comparison. Like the closest system out there, I think, to what we're maybe going towards would be an Overwatch type system.
That's right. I mean, yeah. I think some of our guys said, here's what they're doing. Here's why I think it's better than what we're doing. We should try to do this. And so we tried. And it turns out, we could. And we've done that. And the bottom line is, it feels better.
All right, there you go. That's easy enough, right? So we have another topic, what I previously mentioned, quarter 4, the end of this year. Several things that could be done. There's ideas that have been discussed. There's things that the community has mentioned that they want to see. What do you see happening past the Solaris release? Then, potentially some Solaris polish or whatever. What do you think we're going to be doing the second half of this year? What do you foresee, Russ?
Probably a little bit of sailing in the Pacific Northwest.
Oh,
maybe
man.
A little bit of swimming, summer weather. Hopefully a little bit of that global warming hits Vancouver and really heats us up. I know.
You had to say that, did you?
Yeah, no, I think... yeah, one thing we talked about, okay, so recently, it's no secret, I think you guys have been listening, We had the brain trust, quote unquote. You know, Darren, who's like a giant brain. This guy is like
Not,
epic.
not
You should see the brain on this
the
guy.
beard. You're saying beard.
You know, oh my God. Darren, Phil, Chris, the whole brain trust was up in Vancouver. And, you know, they were here and we discussed a lot of things. We ate a lot of chicken wings.
Mm.
I'd like to say we drank a lot of beer, but I gotta say, Darren let me down.
I drank the
Big
most.
time. Darren and Phil both. It's like, oh my God, you guys have a long ways to go. You're gonna be Canadian. You gotta work on that. So next time they'll work on that. It is what it is. I had like 3. He had like 1.5. I was like, what's up with you?
3.
The whole bit. Anyhow.
Yeah.
I think one area of a lot of feedback was expected and very vital was, you know, our game modes and maps. You guys saw the Rubelite Oasis map. It was a great, you know, refreshing map, and it's very popular, and I think for good reason. But we should also keep a very clean perspective and say, you know, we should stop the narrative of like, we don't have very many maps. You know, we have a lot of maps. We have a shit ton of maps compared to most any other online game. Like, we have a lot. You might not like them all. They're not all equal. They're not always adapted to modern MechWarrior Online play. So there's that. And then there's also the notion of the game modes. Some are great. Some don't play as well as they used to. Some are new and never did settle in as well as they should have, and so on and so forth. So I think we kind of established a notion of saying, well, okay, we got Solaris, we have supporting Solaris, and then we have these changes that have to happen to the comp mode in order to start up, you know, World Championships for next MechCon. But maybe by midsummer, we really should focus on game modes and maps. And that doesn't mean necessarily brand new maps, but it means at the very least, there'll certainly be new maps. I mean, I think beyond Rubelite Oasis and Solaris City, we're committed to creating new maps, but changes to maps, modifications to map, improvements to maps, on top of changes to game modes, modifications to game modes, improvements to game modes. And I think there's a probability here that the, you know, post the Solaris and creating the comp mode improvements, that there will be a period of time, maybe say midsummer to the fall, that'll be more dedicated to improvements in the modes and maps kind of aspect of MechWarrior Online. So polish, you know, like aspects of polish that have maybe been in some of your minds needed.
Yep. Polish. That's a word Phil and I love. And that's certainly, you know, obviously there's, like I said, there's going to be a lot of factors that determine what happens with the second half of the year as far as development goes, internal reasons and external. But something that Phil and I have been excited about for a long time is just being able to pause maybe from some of the big releases and features like Solaris and just polish some of what we have in there, like changes that were made to HPG Manifold, you know, minor changes to that map that improved the gameplay on it. It would be great to see that on a few other maps, and same kind of similar work with game modes. Phil, you were bringing that up earlier. What are your thoughts on
I mean,
that?
obviously it's a positive. It's a win-win for the community. It's a win-win for PGI. They can buckle down. And, you know, we've talked to John, me and Chris sat down with Paul and Russ and Avatar and a bunch of the people, and we talked about the current game modes. We talked about the current maps. We talked about future little changes that can happen, low-hanging fruit, if you will. But then over maybe a long
spawn
well,
points.
over a long period of time, you know, month or two, if we could get that, and actually Russ dropped the bomb on us and said even more time possibly, and I think that's a win. We can really focus on some of the objective-based combat, as well as supplemental rewards. I think spawn locations as well. And I think if it's one of those things, at least to me as a player, which I think is really awesome, and Russ backed us up on this, is if there's a particular map that isn't a favorite, to ask why and then address that. So that's what I'm looking forward to, and you know, of course, polished to maps and game modes. That's a win across the board.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to the potential. So obviously we'll be talking more with everybody up in the office, and we'll be talking with you guys out there, the community, to see things that you might be interested in, and you know, go after that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a window here for me to kind of step in and say,
Sure.
I mean, I hope everyone out there realizes that, and maybe they don't, but let me express this. It's certainly the only, I feel like the only thing we really do outside of our main feature development is listen to the community. I mean, it's probably not the first time I've expressed this, I'm sure, but maybe it's been a while, and it's worth expressing again, is that no matter what, sometimes you feel like maybe the items you want in the game aren't being heard, and there's multiple avenues to express that across social media and various websites, including our own forums. I can promise you we're aware of all of them. And very recently, we kind of responded to a particular video. There's no harm in saying it was Dane's video, and thank you for that. I think that's kind of... Normally, we wouldn't necessarily respond to a particular video or a particular comment as strongly as we did. But I think in this case, we said, you know what? You know, we've been so busy lately. We've been creating so many features and so many things that it doesn't hurt to respond more directly this time and say, okay, yeah, you know, we hear you, and there's a few points in here that are, you know, that are valid. In fact, we've probably been thinking about some of them for a while, and here's what we have in store. And I think, you know, like the jump jet changes and a few things have kind of pushed up to the forefront. The things we've been you know, thinking about for a while, but they've been kind of pushed up to the forefront and say, let's do these, let's do those, and let's make these changes. And in some ways, it's a good sign too. I mean, that the balance of the game has reached a point that, you know, maybe it hasn't achieved before, and that's kind of introduced a new, you know, homogenistic sort of playing field. And so that's a new aspect that we're exploring, and you know, we're thinking about that and talking about it daily. And now we have these changes that are coming very soon, and across the, you know, March, even the next patch. So you know, thank you for that. Thank you for playing. Thank you for enjoying the game. And I promise you, we're always listening.
Absolutely. All right. So that kind of wraps up what we had that was MWO specific, unless there was anything else, Russ, you wanted to add onto that or respond to in terms of chat or whatever. Of course, we can come back to chat at the end if you want to, but otherwise we have a little bit of a few other little topics to...
I want to talk.
You want to
chat
talk
and respond to the people. I'm a man of the people, Darren. What are you?
He's the beard of the people.
He is. I know. I can speak to that. This guy
I'm
has
a lifetime
your back. This guy has your back.
Yes,
all
I do.
the time.
All of you out there, I've got your back.
Well, let's talk about MechCon. See, I just got all of a sudden talking about you, the guy who gets up there and spends more time at the mic than I do. I got fired up to talk about MechCon.
Well, and that's what I was gonna say. I'm a lifetime mech warrior. That's what I am. I can be defined that way. I've been playing this for almost 35 years, starting with the tabletop in '84, and that is what MechCon is all about. MechCon is a celebration of everything BattleTech and Mech Warrior, whether it be the tabletop there with Catalyst, or BattleTech coming up from Harebrained Schemes, or Mech Warrior Online or Mech Warrior 5. MechCon is a huge celebration, and this year is going to be the best of all three. It's going to be the third year in a row. And it's just amazing. There's some things that we still won't be able to discuss, like, oh my gosh, we're looking at the venue,
man.
and obviously we can't say anything about it.
Can I say this? Because I can allude to this. Yeah. The issues at the in 2016 with space in front of that would be solved. Right?
the
space issue will not be an issue. Yeah, so there's that. And as far as space goes, it literally is about 4 times as large, and at least 3. Yes, it's
a huge venue if that's the one that we land on.
So let me jump in.
Go for
it. So the last MechCon was great. It was wonderful. It was dope. I mean, it was so much fun, but there's a few problems. It's tough to get a hotel. The hotel ballroom, whatever you say, to accommodate us. It was a little small.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, I guess that's awesome in one way. It's like, wow, we're too big for that. And there's some places in Vancouver which are a little bigger, but not, it's not like game changer. Like, oh wow, let's go there. So our biggest challenge from MechCon 2017 was like, it was an awesome show, but in some ways it was fine, and then in other ways it was kind of congested. So we wanted to fix that. And so naturally we started looking for a bigger space. And there was another issue. Like some of you, guys like me, and a lot of guys like in the position that I am in, is said, like, I have a son who's 16 or 17 or 18, or a kid or a child or someone who doesn't meet like the 19-year-old like drinking limits of British Columbia, can't come because the hotel says, well, geez, we're serving alcohol in like an open bar or a ticket-based bar, so therefore rules say you have to be 19. So there's a couple things we wanted to overcome. One was, let's look what is a bigger space. And so we started to look at, in Vancouver, that became looking at the convention center. So the Vancouver Convention Center, you guys can Google it. We've got a reserved space available. It's definitely the biggest space we've had to date. This convention center was made popular by the 2010 Olympics with the green roof and the whole bit. It's a beautiful new facility. This thing is like finished just before the 2010 Olympics. So it's brand new. It looks gorgeous. It's wonderful. It's amazing. We've reserved some space there. That's awesome. And the other thing is, we love the World Championships, but they finished too late. So we should consider a 2-day event. Let's say the event started at Friday at noon. And Friday, we finish a lot of preliminary rounds. And then on Saturday at noon, we start up. This is just tentative plans. And we're actually able to finish the World Championships instead of at 11 p.m. or whatever it was. We finished at like 6 p.m. And then from 6, 7 p.m. we have dinner and we have a party until midnight without the big grind of the tournament. That would be amazing. And if the drinking environment was reduced to like a beer garden kind of situation, then we could allow children under the age of 19 to attend. So that's just a little bit of a sniff into what we're thinking about. A multi-day event, an event that would have people being able to bring children that are under the age of 19, bigger, better, more inclusive. I mean, say it with me. Wonderful.
Oh
Just
yeah.
a wonderful event, and that's what we're shooting for. So hope that resonates out there. I mean, I want to see more of you out there. We grew by almost 50% last time. I'd like to see, another 50% growth. I'd like to see, a couple thousand people at MechCon this year. Like coming into Vancouver, soaking up the nice Vancouver winter, the whole bit.
And with this, Darren, one of the things that I really loved about this past MechCon was obviously it was at the hotel. There are hotels right across from where we're talking about as well. So that will not be an issue for those that would be coming up. So that's a win-win.
Absolutely. And MechCon's just been improving every year. Just so you guys know, I mean, to me, this is two of the, at least in the top 5 as far as the feedback we've got from both previous MechCons was making it 2 days and making it more family friendly. People wanting to bring their kids and their wives even, but they can't because they got kids or whatever. So my family thanks you. So I'm super happy about both of those additions. But just so you know, MechCon is, a weekly discussion that's happening in the office, and we're doing a lot of things to improve MechCon. There was improvement from 2016 to 17, and there will be improvement in a lot of ways this year as well. But I'm super excited. Again, this year's insane as far as BattleTech and MechWarrior, just everything that's happening in this world and in this franchise. And there's a lot of things. There's things that haven't been brought up today that can't be brought up today for various reasons that are also
just bring all of them up.
Bring everything up, right?
Everything. These are our family, Darren.
This is our family. I know. Well, you families like surprises too, and these will be great surprises.
Okay,
so
I'm sold.
Oh, maybe the next production update. But anyway, so many good things happening and exciting. And, Phil and I and Chris going up there this week was great. Learned a lot of stuff. We got to play around with Mech 5. We saw the latest build of MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries. Just insanely beautiful and fun. And, the potential there again with all the mod support and the co-op. I just can't wait. It is going to be an insane year for all of us BattleTech MechWarrior fans. This is going to be the biggest MechCon we've had so far. You don't want to miss it. And now there's no excuses. It is 2 days. If you're traveling a long way, you'll be able to enjoy it a lot easier. We will be partying into the night that first night, I guarantee you.
So anyway, speaking of MechWarrior 5, we were able to see stuff. And one of the things I will say is it's amazing to see the difference of what we played a few months ago, and which was even an old build then, to now, where the environmental assets, and we are able to see pretty much dynamic lighting. We're able to see all of the weather effects, and it's
so good.
As much it was just straight up beautiful, and it was really cool to see how much control and access they have to that. And yeah, I'm pretty stoked. I learned a little bit about the mod stuff and how that's going to be implemented as well. I'm just really stoked. I mean, to see just 2 months difference and how further along it is as well. And of course, I'm sure Russ will be releasing information throughout the year for you guys. And you don't want to miss your opportunity to play it at MechCon as well. So again, once tickets go up, don't miss out.
And speaking of, being able to play it, like Phil said, the space at the convention center is at least 3 times as large as what we had previously. That means more space for us to fill with cool things. And that's part of the discussion of what I was saying earlier, is there's things that we can't bring up right now that are in the process, but it's just going to be amazing. You won't want to miss it. I'm sure you've heard people say that after the last 2 MechCons, how much they loved it. And it went above expectations. So I want to meet all of you guys out there. Phil wants to meet all of you. Russ wants to meet all of you. Chris, he could give a shit. But all of you guys out there, I'm just joking. Of course, Chris wants to meet you as well. So everybody that can and is able, right, Chris? You want to see them all.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
thanks,
mean,
Darren, for throwing me under the bus.
Chris, this fucking guy is amazing.
He is.
Love this guy. Love
Yes.
him. His commitment to the whole game.
Absolutely.
I mean, you guys feel free and let us know what you'd like to see at Solaris. Sorry, Solaris and MechCon.
Or both.
Do you want to see Solaris at MechCon? What would make the difference? I mean, December in Vancouver is not Hawaii. It's not, the Florida Keys. It's wintertime, but, I promise you it's very bearable compared to what you might expect from, oh my God, it's Canada. It's going to be like minus $1 million. No, you can get by with a very light jacket. It's no reason to, not come. It's a very temperate area. We would love to show you how much we love our city, and we'd love to host you here. So we desperately want to have an amazing MechCon. Let's have the biggest MechCon ever.
Hell yeah.
Let us know what you guys want us to talk about. We'll talk about it next time. We're always listening, I promise.
Absolutely. So thank you all for being here. Thank you, Russ. Thank you, Chris, for being on standby and giving us some info. And absolutely, we will be taking feedback on the game. We'll be taking feedback on MechCon, everything continuously. Let us know what you like. Let us know what you don't like. Let us know what you want to see. As Russ says, we're always listening. That doesn't mean that everything's always going to be a yes for everybody. It's just not possible. But we do the best that we can. I can guarantee we are passionate about what we do. All of us here, the four of us in this room, Russ, Chris, myself, and Phil, have been lifelong players of BattleTech and MechWarrior. We love this franchise. It's, a part of our lives every single day. And so we're as excited about it as you are. So again, thank you all for being here. And I will be doing this last giveaway. Don't worry, guys. Which is a Blood Asp Ultimate Pack. This thing's going to be insanely badass. So make sure you hashtag Blood Asp right now and get in on that before this is over. I'll do the giveaway. And yeah, I think it's been a little over 2 hours we've been doing this, and it's a Friday night. I think we're ready to shut this thing down. Russ, is there anything else you want to go over or say before we head out of here?
I want to talk endlessly.
Forever. Go till 9.
I just want to keep going and just tell you guys you're the best. So these production updates are never long enough. There's so much going on. Understand that what we're saying now is really just a fraction of what's going on, and we can really only talk about what's kind of solidified into reality, and there's so many things that are in various stages of possibility, and we're trying to work on this, and the community is saying this, so we should really think about this, and it's a small aspect. So this is such a great time. Darren, this is where you
Russ.
preach. I want to hear you preach.
I just did.
This is about MechWarrior. I mean,
Yes.
I was a fan since I was, let's do the math, shall we? I was born in 75.
12.
There you have it. I'm an old man. I'm 42 years old.
Youngin.
Let me just hang on a second. Let me let the laughing subside. Just wait. It's not quite done yet.
I mean,
Okay.
42 being old. Come on.
This is a real memory. Don't let this. Okay, this is a real memory. Let the whole what do I say? Community absorb this. I was born in a little tiny farming community in southern Alberta, not in British Columbia where I am now. Alberta. It's fine. It's a great place to grow up. I had a great childhood. Everything's wonderful. And yes, I'm going to get deep as fuck. Are you ready for it?
I'm ready.
So there's a little, by the status I'm used to now, it's a tiny little town. At the time, it's a little city called Lethbridge, Alberta. Now it's up to about 100,000. At the time, it's 60,000. There was one mall worth a goddamn in the whole town called Park Place Mall. I'm pretty sure I got that right. One little gaming store in there. T&P Games, if I remember. Like, I am doing such a service to the memory of this, who knows, this little bullshit mall in that time frame. So we're looking at like, Mech Warrior 1, 1989. I was born in 75. This is like, what, I'm like 14 years old. I'm walking through the mall with my mom, and like there's a game there, Mech Warrior. I already played Crescent Hawk's Inception, Crescent Hawk's Revenge, and there it is, Mech Warrior. My monitor didn't even support EGA graphics. It was CGA. And all you young kids out there, respect your elders. CGA monitors were a real thing. Oh my God. 4 colors.
The Dark Ages.
I shit you not. It was ridiculous. Anyhow, I talked her into buying this thing for me. Like, literally, we got halfway to the door to the mall entrance where the car was, and she broke down and finally said, "Fine, like, let's go back. Like, damn you, kind of thing." Like, I broke her down. I literally broke my mom down. She went back and bought Mech Warrior 1, 1989 Activision, game. And I had to get a new monitor to play that sumbitch. And that's the history. And the rest is history, as they say.
The rest is history.
Of course,
that's right.
I played MechWarrior 2, 3, 4, the whole bit, all of it. And to be here now is ridiculous. And see all you guys who love this game, please don't ever let the thought creep into your mind that I don't care, that I don't pay attention, that I don't understand what you want. I'm doing the best I can. We're all doing the best we can. MechWarrior Online is the closest interpretation to MechWarrior and BattleTech that there's ever been. That's the truth. 1 through 4 didn't come close. And we had the advantage of technology, and it is what it is, and we have a great game right now. It's not everything you could ever desire, because that's impossible. But
unless you make your own game, yeah.
We're always doing our best to achieve that. So MechWarrior Online will continue. I hope forever. We'll see. But MechWarrior 5 will be a wonderful addition from a single player and co-op perspective. It's going to be amazing. So we hope and expect all your support in those endeavors as well. And in the meantime, please don't ever think that we've abandoned MWO. MWO is receiving as much development time as it ever has. It's getting so much of our attention. It's going to receive a major feature right in the middle of MechWarrior Online, or MechWarrior 5, excuse me, right in the middle of MechWarrior 5 development. There's no notion of abandoning MechWarrior Online whatsoever. So thank you for Phil, Darren, Chris, everyone involved here. We are so committed to both products. You guys are the best. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris and Russ and Phil and everybody else out there in chat. We appreciate you being here. I'm literally going to go, I got to meet some people at the bar. I'm going to go drink. I'm going to get my drink on in 20 minutes. So I do have to head. Yeah, I'm going to do it. Making you proud. I'm trying to be Canadian.
No wonder this guy's trying to shut this thing down like
right?
But I get it. Okay, I'm proud
I need
of
my
you.
drinks. But again, I am going to reiterate, because you touched my heartstrings there. I agree. I fucking love this franchise. I love this game. I want to see it continue on forever. Who knows what's going to happen, but it's exciting times. And this year, next year, nothing but good stuff coming out from everything BattleTech and MechWarrior. So I hope to see you all, in our upcoming streams at MechCon, whatever. We'll see you on the battlefield. Again, thank you everybody for being here. Have a great fucking weekend. Have a great Friday night. If you're getting your drink on, if not, whatever. Have a good time, and be safe, kids. And Phil, you got anything you want to say?
Yeah, just want to say thank you again, Russ and Chris, and of course Mama Bear. And quick shout out to a few individuals. Loken Plays, 12-month resub. Thank you again for that, and your host, sir. Toast Mark 2 for 2-month resub. Hobo Zeph for 10 months. I am feeling old. It's all right, Hobo. It's all right. There's others like you. Sky Shield Pony, 4-month resub, and a brand new sub, Naughty Syntax. Oh my. OMC Boone, 17 months. Thank you for the birthday celebrations. It's really not my birthday, but thank you. Umarashi gifted a sub to the Biff. Thank you for that gift, sir. And we have EOD Operator with a brand new sub as well. And who else we got up in here? Solzen with his 26-month resub. Lord Losh with a brand new Prime sub. Let's see, CK, 25-month resub. Kudos, sir. Much appreciated. And of course, thank you to all of the new follows. If you are new to this channel and you enjoyed the mech porn talk, make sure to click that follow button. And we just got a few more. Casu with 9-month resub. Bandit, welcome back, sir. Using NGNGTV. Natirist with that 5-month. Leadfoot with that brand new Prime sub. Oh my. I don't know if I'll be able to stop if this keeps up. Thank you guys. And of course, if you do want to help support the channel, easiest way you can do it is click follow. Enjoy the content. Margot, thank you for the 2-month resub. And if you guys want to take that relationship further, consider becoming a sub. And we will be back tomorrow. Actually, hold on, shit. Tomorrow's Saturday. Never mind. Guys, by the way, Russ, I have to explain something quickly to you. Why I was happy to be home. I'm in mid-move right now. So I left at a very weird time. So
may as well move to Vancouver.
Well, you know,
that's what I said. He likes that 70-degree weather, though.
Get that, Canadian thing. I know you're from like the southern states, just like too warm and shit.
He's a southern boy.
I don't know about that. All right.
Don't worry, guys. I'm doing the
Lieutenant
giveaway.
Hardcase, thank you for that 18-month tier 2 sub, by the way. Thank you for that resub. And of course, Darren will be giving that away soon. He does that quite often. But yeah, just want to say you guys are awesome. I will be back to normal streaming on this coming Monday. And I will not be available any at all this weekend. So I apologize, but we were up in Vancouver this past week getting on meetings and apparently drinking lots of beer. So thank you guys so much for all your support.
Those wings are so good. Yeah. Yes, definitely reiterate. Thank you, all of you out there, for your support, just for hanging out with us. We appreciate it. You guys are the best community in gaming, hands down, without a doubt. And now let's do this giveaway. A Blood Asp Ultimate Pack. It's everything that comes with the Blood Asp. The winner is Dragoon at 2143. Dragoon, are you out there? You got 30 seconds to claim your prize. And congratulations to everybody that did win something tonight. Hope you enjoy everything that you've received. Heard some exciting stuff about the games coming up. And there's Dragoon. Okay, cool. We are set. I'm going to talk with Dragoon. I'll get him sorted. Then I got to head out of here. I am going to go get blitzed myself. So have a great time. Have a great weekend. Thank you again, Sean, Phil, Chris, Russ. Good night, everybody.
Have a good weekend, everyone.
Until next time, MechWarriors.